Mother got up to leave and told me to freshen up, come downstairs, and have breakfast. As she started to go, I hugged her from behind and said, "Let me have my breakfast today. You're leaving today, and who knows when I'll get another chance." She replied, "Cammy, you've become very naughty." I said, "Well, there's a certain pleasure in being naughty now." She smiled and said, "Let me go." I turned her toward me, held her close, and started being affectionate. After that, we played our match, and about half an hour later, we were finished. She went downstairs, and I got up to take a shower. After showering and changing, I went downstairs to find she had also bathed and was in the kitchen making breakfast. I went in and said, "I had so much fun today." She replied, "I did too." I said, "I really wanted more." She said, "We're short on time, and your sisters will be here soon. Now, move away from behind me and go to the table. I'll bring the hot breakfast." Pushing me out of the kitchen, she said, "All right, that's enough, go now." I went out, turned on the TV, and waited for breakfast. Meanwhile, the doorbell rang. I went to open it, and Goji and Palak had returned from college. They both said, "Hi," and came inside. Mom was setting the table. Palak said, "Look at this, breakfast is still going on?" "Brother, why so late today?" I told Palak, "I just woke up late today, and Mom didn't wake me up either." Mom came out of the kitchen and said, "You two go freshen up, we have to clean the house. Cammy, finish your breakfast quickly and go to the shop, and come back early in the evening. We have to be dropped off at the station." I finished breakfast, went to my room to change, and when I came down, my Aunt Hala was sitting in the lounge. I said, "Hi," to her. She looked at me and asked, "How is my nephew?" I said, "I'm right in front of you." She remarked, "Nephew, you look very fresh and smart today. Is there a date planned?" I replied, "No, Kala, the date is supposed to be with you." She looked at Mom and said, "Sister, look at your son, he wants to go on a date with his aunt." Mom said, "Have some shame, she is your aunt." I said, "Mom, is going on a date a bad thing? Kala is everyone's favorite." Mom said, "All right, enough talk, go to the shop." Kala added, "Nephew, I'll deal with you later. For now, go to the shop. Once your mother leaves, I'll settle the score with you." I smiled and said, "Okay then," and left the house, took out my bike, and headed to the shop. I was busy with customers when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Palak. "Brother, when will you be back?" Mom is asking. I replied, "Palak, I'll let you know in a bit, just let me finish with this customer." She said okay. After a while, I got free, saw it was 5 p.m., and messaged her, "Yes, tell me." Palak said, "Brother, Mom says you should come home soon." I replied, "Yes, I'll be there soon, the train isn't until 9 p.m. "Where is Mom?" Palak replied, "Mom, Kala, and Goji have gone to the market." Palak then said, "Brother, can I ask you something? You won't get angry?" I said, "No, ask away, why would I be angry?" She said, "I didn't have the courage to ask this in person, so I'm asking over message." I told her, yes, ask whatever you want." Palak said, "Brother, Mom was very angry yesterday when I was taking the camera out of your wardrobe. Did she talk to you about it? I'm worried about what she might think of us." I said, "No, don't worry. If she suspected anything, she would have said something to you. So don't be stressed." Palak replied, "But you were standing right behind me like that." I said, "I was just helping you find the camera. Tell me, how did it feel when I was standing behind you?" Palak said, "I was scared. It felt strange. I was wondering what had happened to you." I said, "There's nothing to be scared of. I was just standing behind you. I didn't do anything." Palak said, I replied, I'm your brother. I was just standing there. Maybe I touched you a bit too much." She said, "It was a lot of touching, that's why I was scared." I asked, "Why be scared? Didn't it feel good?" She said, "I don't know, I was just scared." "And you do those things in your room at night, like you were doing that day." I asked, "What was I doing?" She said, "When you were pulling your trousers down." I explained, "Palak, it was just because an English movie clip popped up on my phone." She asked, "You do that after watching English movie clips?" I said, "If you watched them, you'd do the same." She replied, "No sir, I don't want to see such clips. And oh, I remembered something else," she added. I said, "Go on." She said, "Today while cleaning your room, I found Mom's mesh, see-through clothes near your bed. And that day when you and Goji were alone, her clothes were lying in the lounge." What is all this? Reading this, I wondered what to tell her. That Mom and I had just played that morning? And that she left her clothes in my room in a hurry? I thought, these two have made a mess of things. What do I tell Palak? Meanwhile, she messaged again. "Brother, what happened? Why are you quiet?" I replied, "Maybe they got mixed up with my clothes when Mom brought my laundry to my room." I asked, "Did you give those clothes back to Mom?" She said, "No, I put them in your wardrobe." I said, "That's good." She asked, "Will you give them back to her?" I said, "Just put them in her wardrobe." She agreed, "Yes, that's better." Palak then said, "Brother, don't do such things in your room. If someone comes in suddenly and sees you in that state," I replied, "then they should knock before entering if I'm in my room without clothes." She said, "How shameless you are, sleeping without clothes." I said, "Why? In my own room, I can be however I want." She said, "That's not right." I asked, "How did you feel seeing me?" She said, "I felt shy, embarrassed, wondering what you were doing." I said, "I'll tell you someday what I was doing." She asked, when exactly? I realized Palak was slowly becoming curious to know everything. I thought this was a good sign. I replied, when you get back. She said, no, tell me whenever you're in the mood, but tell me over message because I'll feel shy. I said, okay. Palak said, Mom and Kala are back. Okay, bye. I said okay. I was now thinking that Palak might also be ready to have some fun. In the meantime, customers arrived and I got busy. I looked at the clock and it was 6 p.m. I told Mr. Aslam, my trusted employee, that I was leaving and he should close up. I headed home. When I reached and rang the bell, Palak opened the gate. Seeing her, I said, oh, wow, sweetie. Palak was wearing black jeans and a pink tunic kurti. The tunic was tight at the top, making her curves look very prominent. She noticed me staring and asked, brother, what happened? Why are you looking at me like that? I said, you look so lovely. I feel like picking you up in my arms like a doll. Palak said, sir, I'm grown up now, not someone to be picked up. I replied, I can still pick you up. She said, fine, pick me up then. But for now, come inside, Mom and Dad are waiting for you. I parked the bike and went in. Dad said, son, freshen up quickly so you can drop us off. I said, I'll be right there. I went to my room, freshened up, and came down. Mom told Palak to help me put the luggage in the car. I picked up Mom's handbag, the same one that had brought us closer. Palak and I began loading the stuff. During this, I touched her and stole glances whenever I could. Palak looked especially beautiful today. She didn't react negatively, which meant she was enjoying the attention too. Together we loaded everything. Mom and Palak put on their abayas and got ready. Palak looked even more beautiful in the abaya. Dad said, let's go, we're getting late. Mom met with Kala and Goji, then told me, Kami, take care of Kala and Goji, and try to come home early from the shop.